Jesus Freak here. Now, since I have a lot of idle time, I do a lot of, rumination, and I was thinking about certain situations. I said, this was the first thought I had. I was like, when people turn on you, when the going gets tough, you'll have those people turn on you right away. And then you'll have people, when things are going good, they'll be with you. And when they start getting a little bit rough, they decide to take the easy road and turn on you, throw you under the bus. Or, they might have other things on their mind. And in the process of dealing with those, throw you under the bus. I said, wait a second. I just told you the parable of the sower. Let me explain that.
I'm going to take this out of Mark 4. And he began again to teach by the seaside, and there was gathered unto him a great multitude, so that he entered into a ship and sat in the sea, and the whole multitude was by the sea on the land. And he taught them many things by parables, and said unto them in his doctrine, Hearken, behold, there went out a sower to sow. And it came to pass as he sowed, some fell by the wayside, and the fowls of the air came and devoured it up. And some fell on stony ground, where it had not much earth, and immediately it sprang up, because it had no depth of earth. But when the sun was up, it was scorched, and because it had no root, it withered away. And some fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked it, and it yielded no fruit. And other fell on good ground, and did yield fruit that sprang up and increased, and brought forth some 30, and some 60, and some 100. And he said unto them, He that hath ears to hear, let him hear.
Okay. Now, you notice with these insert clips, because I had this thought while I was out, and I took the opportunity while I was out to do the readings. I always carry a Bible with me, but it's not one of my better ones. Most of the time around here, I'll probably be using something more like this, normal size Bible. One that's not too hard on my eyes. And the one I was using there, and the one I'm going to use in a later clip, is basically this one. It's not exactly this one, but it's just this with a different cover. Anyway, I was also thinking of something that I've been saying a bit lately, where I said that being a cynic and a fatalist didn't mean I wasn't gonna go down fighting. I said, wait a minute. Someone who screwed up, but decided, whatever happens, I'm going down fighting. It sounds an awful lot like Samson.
Another reading one was Judges 16. Then went Samson to Gaza and saw there an harlot, and went in unto her. And it was told the Gazites, saying,
Samson has come hither.
And they compassed him in, and laid wait for him all night
In the gate of the city, and were quiet all the night, saying, In the morning, when it is day, we shall kill him.
And Samson lay till midnight, and arose at midnight, and took the doors of the gate of the city, and the 2 posts, and he went away with them, bar and all, and put them upon his shoulders, and carried them up to the top of an hill, what was before Heber. And it came to pass afterward that he loved the woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah.
And the lords of the Philistines came up unto her, and said unto her,
Entice him, and see wherein his great strength lieth, and by what means we may prevail against him, we may bind him to afflict him. We will give thee every one of us 1,100 pieces of silver. And Delilah said to Samson, Tell me, I pray thee, wherein thy great strength lieth, and wherewith thou mightest be bound to afflict thee. And Samson said unto her, If they bind me with 7 green withs that were never dried, then shall I be weak and be as another man. Then the lords of the Philistines brought up to her 7 green withs which had not been dry, and she bound him with them. Now there were men lying in wait, abiding with her in the chamber, and she said unto him, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he brake the withs, as a thread of tow is broken when it toucheth the fire, so his strength was not known. And Delilah said unto Samson, Behold, thou hast mocked me, and told me lies. Now tell me, I pray thee, wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, If they bind me fast with new ropes, never were occupied, then I shall be weak and be as another man. Delilah therefore took new ropes and bound him therewith, and said unto him, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And there were liers in wait abiding in the chamber. And he brake them from off his arms like a thread. And Delilah said unto Samson, Hitherto thou hast mocked me, and told me lies. Tell me wherewith thou mightest be bound. And he said unto her, If thou weavest the 7 locks of my head with the web. And she fastened it with a pin, and said unto him, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awaked out of his sleep, and went away with the pin of the beam and with the web. And she said unto him, How canst thou say I love thee, when thine heart is not with me? Thou hast mocked me these 3 times, and hast not told me wherein thy great strength lieth. When it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him so that his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart, and said unto her, There hath not come a razor upon mine head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall be weak and be like any other man. And when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, Come up this once, for he has showed me all his heart. Then the lords of the Philistines came up unto her, and brought money in their hand. And she made him sleep upon her knees, and she called for a man, and she caused him to shave off the 7 locks of his head. And she began to afflict him, and his strength went from him. And she said, The Philistines be upon thee, Samson. And he awoke out of his sleep, and said, I will go out as other times before, and shake myself. And he wist not that the Lord was departed from him. But the Philistines took him, and put out his eyes, and he brought him down to Gaza, and bound him with fetters of brass.
And he did grind in the prison house.
Howbeit the hair of his head began to grow again after he was shaven. Then the lords of the Philistines gathered them together for to offer great sacrifice unto Dagon their god, and to rejoice. For they said, Our God hath delivered Samson our enemy into our hand. And when the people saw him, they praised their God. For they said, Our God hath delivered into our hands our enemy, and the destroyer of our country, which slew many of us. And it came to pass, when their hearts were merry, that they said, Call for Samson, that he may make us sport. And they called for Samson out of the prison house, and he made them sport. and they set him between the pillars. And Samson said unto the lad that held him by the hand, Suffer me that I may feel the pillars whereupon the house standeth, that I may lean upon them. Now the house was full of men and women, and all the lords of the Philistines were there. And there were upon the roof about 3,000 men and women that beheld, while Samson made sport. And Samson called unto the Lord and said, O Lord God, remember me, I pray thee, and strengthen me, I pray thee, only this once, O God, that I may be at once avenged of the Philistines for my 2 eyes. And Samson took hold of the 2 middle pillars upon which the house stood, and on which it was borne up, of the one with his right hand, and of the other with his left. And Samson said, Let me die with the Philistines! And he bowed himself with all his might, and the house fell upon the lords and upon all the people that were therein. So the dead which he slew at his death were more than they which he slew in his life. Then his brethren and all the house of his father came down, and took him, and brought him up, and buried him between Zorah and Eshtal, in the burying place of Manoah his father. And he judged Israel 20 years.
Now, I'm not one to like to overanalyze Bible passages or whatever. I just take them as they come. I'm certainly not one of those, go out and find your David moment and, fight the Goliaths in your life. I mean, that's just narcissism. That's trying to read yourself into the Bible. And I'm like, that's not my point. But I feel like, you gotta... There's a saying, you live in the Word, it's just gonna fall out of your mouth. And I definitely have noticed that. For whatever flaws I may have, and I certainly have plenty. Anyway, it's just something that I had on my mind and I wanted to talk about a little bit. And I needed the context since I know not everyone's as well acquainted with the Bible, and I mean, there's people far more well acquainted with it than I. Anyway, Jesus freak out.